What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be talking to another special guest. I'm really excited to talk to her. Again, you guys know the routine with this, bringing on people that I see on social media who are doing great things, important things, spreading, whether it's news or talking about issues. Today's guest does both of those things and also talks, gives a little history, talks about history, Latino history specifically. She's just in here. Let me bring her on. Uh, Excited to talk to her. I was just binging, I was on TikTok right now, just binging like a lot of her videos. I've been following her, I think maybe like a year now. Hey, what's up?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I was just telling everybody that I'm super excited to talk to you. I've been following you for I think a year. I mean, who knows? Fucking time flies. I don't know what fucking year it is or what day it is, but
Oh my goodness, I had no idea that you followed me for that long. That's awesome.
no, for sure. I mean, because like you're one of everybody's doing TikToks, right? But we'll get into this, but the things you choose to do TikToks on, like whether it's news, whether it's like activism, like how we can help people, or just history, like a lot of history, a lot of unknown history. I just what was it, like a couple weeks ago, saw the one about piñatas being from maybe China. Like, come on now, like nobody's talking about that.
No, oh yes, actually it's kind of crazy because I come up with like random things sometimes like that I want to talk about, but other times it's actually like other creators or even my followers, they'll comment something. Someone commented that actually. That's why I made a video about it. And if it wasn't for like that follower commenting that, I honestly wouldn't have looked into it, but sometimes I do think of random ideas like that and I think it's interesting to just share.
Well, I didn't give you a proper introduction. So do you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll get chatting.
Yes, so my name is Vanessa Diosdado, but everyone calls me Nessa. So on my social media, you can find me as Nessa Diosdado. I do social media full time, but on my free time, I like to, put in the work in person, and I consider myself an advocate for the community. And I try to be what I feel like I haven't seen, at least growing up. There's not a lot of individuals to look up to, at least that like represent exactly like who I feel like I am. I feel like I don't see enough like young Gen Z Latinas out there doing the work. So I try to be at least something that I feel like others can look up to. And so you can find me, yes, on TikTok as Nessa Diosdado. That's the main platform that I post on, but this is the second platform that I post on as well. And I've been doing it since honestly a little bit before the pandemic started here in the United States. But it wasn't until like December 2020 that I actually that it popped off, that I would say, and I just started being more consistent, and it's led me to almost reach 1 million followers on TikTok. So it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, like especially I find I've talked to a lot of like I mean, I don't know how you feel about the term TikToker, but TikToker, right? Um, I find that like a lot of the people that I've talked to have big followings. They were doing TikTok before the pandemic. Like obviously everybody jumped on. A lot of people jumped on the TikTok bandwagon during the pandemic because we're locked in. We can't go anywhere, right? There's nothing good to watch on TV, right? Um, and that's when TikTok really popped off. But I find like a lot of people who have massive followings today, they've been doing it for a minute. So like, why? I mean, but why did you start doing TikTok?
So I feel like my generation, like Gen Z, is the generation of social media. So I've always been intrigued with social media. I liked editing, just making like edits, editing photos, and just I remember I ran for class president in high school, and I made all these edits for like my campaign, kind of like logos or posters, and like just like on social media, I would observe and see other Latinos try to like create a following for themselves, like for fashion, and I was like, let me try fashion. And I mean, I do okay, like I post some fashion here and there, but then later on I became a young mother, and I kind of wanted to share that, so I began posting like mommy and me content. And like toddlers or babies overall, they don't really like to be on the camera, so that wasn't really something that like I ended up fully going through with, because it was just difficult and I didn't want to force my daughter to do something if she didn't want to. So then I was like, you know what, like the real side, like this, the most authentic side of me is like my advocacy part. And I'm like, let me just kind of portray that online. And at first I mean, maybe I didn't get like views or whatever, but I didn't care. I just kept posting. And then I'm like, I don't see a lot of people talking about history or pop culture in English that's like based off like for example, I don't see a lot of people talking about Latino pop culture or music or history in English. So I feel like I I felt like I needed to make that content there. And to this day, there's not a lot of content creators that speak English that talk about our history or pop culture. So I wanted to bring that to the table because it's like not, something you see often. So for me, I was like, there's other children of immigrants like me that they may not know a lot about their culture or their artists or their history because they don't know Spanish. So I'm like, maybe the best way to communicate with them, like what's going on, is doing videos in English. So it worked. Like I would talk about a Mexican artist in English and people were like, holy crap, like, that's my mom's favorite artist, or yeah, he's awesome. And I think that's how I grew, because I would just talk about things in English that usually are only talked about in
That's
Spanish.
crazy. I mean, yeah, and like Latinos, a lot of people who aren't Latino don't know this, but like Latinos are so like digitally. You're talking about Gen Z, but just Latinos, period. Like I think we're the most digitally savvy. We're on our phones. We're on social media, like more than like other segments of the population. And yeah, you're right. Like there's a lot of stuff. Like I'm half Puerto Rican. There's so much Puerto Rican history specifically that is only written in Spanish. And so, like, if you're English dominant, like I am, like Spanish was my first language, but I went to a school where you couldn't speak Spanish in the hallways, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. And so, Americanization, I kind of lost it. But like, if you don't know, if you're not strong in Spanish, then like you don't know a lot about your history, a lot about your culture. You said, where did you go to high school?
So I was born in a small town, maybe about an hour from Dallas on a good day because, traffic, but it's a very small town. And it's like in rural East Texas, kind of like by Louisiana and Arkansas and Oklahoma, of course, at the top. That's where I was born and raised. And we used to be the dairy capital, meaning that we had more cows than people at one point here. Like, it's still very rural to this day. And kind of like well, like, I speak both languages because at my house, like, my parents strictly like speak Spanish. Over time, they learned English with us. They tell us that they're like, we learned English because of y'all. Like y'all would get home from school and we would just like hear y'all, and like that's how we learned. And my mom, she did go to school here, but it wasn't until she was like a senior. And I mean, she hated it. She wanted to go back to Mexico, but so she didn't really like assimilate then. Like she slowly started like to assimilate like now that her children were growing up. But well, yeah, growing up here, we're still the minority to this day, despite like Hispanics or Latinos now being the largest demographic in Texas. Where I live, the like Latinos are the minority. Like it's a predominantly white area, so I've never seen another Latina. Like I didn't have a Latina teacher or Latino teacher at all. My brother did, but every time I see my classmates become like a teacher, like or something in the community, it makes me happy because I didn't have that, and I know they didn't have that either. And slowly but surely, I'm sure one day, we'll slowly become the majority in this town. But as of right now, we're still the minority. And it's kind of like bittersweet because like then it allows you to become the first to do something. So when I was in high school, actually, I was the first homecoming queen that was Latina. But it also was kind of sucky just to think, wow, like the fact that it took like
Yeah.
for me in 2018 to be that. But slowly but surely, for sure. I also ran for city council when I was 19. And well, I turned 20 right away, so I was 20 for the most part in the race. But I was the only Latina. There was a Latino older man running, but I was the youngest. I was the only one under 30, and I was the only woman also running. It was really odd for me, but I'm used to it. The representation that we have here is just, men, but primarily white men. And to me, like, I hate to just stand by and see that. So I definitely felt like I had to run then.
So I mean, where does it come from though? Like, because you said you ran for class president, and then you ran for city council when you were 19. You turned 2020. Where does that come from? Where did that start?
So ever since I was a little girl, I learned about how, just messed up our immigration system is. Thankfully, I was born here every day. Like, I acknowledge that privilege I have. Even though I grew up low income, I still acknowledge that I have some privileges that maybe a low income undocumented person doesn't have. even if we both grew up low income, like I understand that I don't have to live in fear every day. So from an early age, I learned, you know, because a lot of people know someone undocumented because there's millions of them here in the United States. Whether it's a family member, you know,
My wife
or
was undocumented when I met. She came here when she was 2, and we got married when she was 23, 24, and she got that's how she got her papers.
oh wow, so see, that's a long time period. And for me, I just at night, like I find myself to this day, still like upset over the fact, you know, that our immigration system has been flawed since I was a little girl, and that's what motivated me. Like I learned, like I would just research stuff, and I would be like, wow, so you're telling me that this is the reason why people like haven't been able to get papers, you know, or you know, like I just started learning about injustices, and then I learned what a Republican or a Democrat was, and I was like, holy crap! Like I was mind blown. I was like, what? And so I think what really motivated me, honestly, to get involved was like, you know, when Donald Trump announced that he was running for president, his speech was just very like derogative, like had nothing good really to say about when Mexican people come, you know.
Yeah,
Well, listening to
they're
that, I
not
was just like,
sending us our best. They're yeah, the famous
yeah.
speech.
So like I just when I heard that I was like, whoa, like I need to get involved. And I was just 15, but I got involved, and what I did was like I tried to do what I could because you know I wasn't old enough to vote, but I learned that at 16, at least in Texas, we can help the election clerks, you know, get people ready to, you know, turn in their ballot. So I was working the elections, and I would get paid for it too. It was crazy. I didn't know you could get paid and skip school for it, but then I would volunteer, and it was actually one of my classmates, his mother. He was a black classmate of mine. His mother was like, "Why don't you volunteer for me? Like, I need help, you know, translating so we can get maybe like the Latino vote, and like I want to hear what they have to say. Help me translate so I can get to talk to them." And so I started volunteering for her, and then I got connected to a retired teacher from my school district, and then she would like kind of like mentor me, and she took me to my first protest, and she was like really really old, but the fact that she was just motivated to see change in our county, because our county to this day, like at least for the past election cycles, it's continuously voted 80% Republican. So people like them, obviously they want the youth, you know, to thrive, so they'll do anything to mentor them and then give them experience. So I would say that retired school teacher and my classmate's mother are what really gave me like that first push, like, hey, you got this. And when I found out I was going to be a young mom when I was a freshman in college, my classmate's mother, she didn't let that stop her from asking me to continue to, you know, like help her. She actually told me, hey, why don't you make this speech for me, because I won't be able to be there. And I was like pregnant and had my belly, and you know, like in our culture it's like a shame to be like, I guess overall I feel like in a lot of like Latino countries it's a shame for you to, you know, be pregnant at a young age, but she didn't care. Like she said that like I was still like worthy of what I thought and what the work that I wanted to do, so she allowed for me to make that speech. And I remember another classmate of mine's father was there, and I remember kind of feeling embarrassed, but then I assured myself, you know what, like life happens and you can still do what you want, and a baby shouldn't stop you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it, you have another similarity with my wife. She got pregnant with my stepdaughter when she was 15, and so she was, and her mom was like the church lady, you know what I mean? Like her mom knew everybody in the church, all their friends with church. They could never, my wife's one of five daughters, right? All girls. And so she was super involved in the church. And then when she got pregnant, she was a lectora, right? She would read in front of the church. And when she got pregnant, they didn't let her read in front of the church no more. And not only that, like like these people that she was friends with, like her whole, and this is getting off a tangent, but people she was friends with like for like 4, 5, 10 years, you know, everybody just shunned her. The whole church just shunned her. And yeah, I mean, my mom was a young mom, a teen mom. But my wife always said that she just didn't want to be a statistic. Was that what it was with you? Like, you know, when you became pregnant, people like say, oh, like somebody told my wife, oh, you know, one of her teachers said, oh, you know, like you threw away your life, blah blah blah, and she just, you know, that got her so mad, like how dare you, you know, and like now my wife's super successful, right, and she didn't let being a teen mom stop her, and now, you know, she's 35, my stepdaughter is 19, we're still young, and we have, you know, we have, you know, one adult kid. I didn't want any kids. I never wanted any kids. So like now we're kind of free. So now I see my friends on social media have these kids and they're like in their late 30s and stuff. I'm like, bruh, dog, like I can't.
No, I had the same experience pretty much as her. I feel like it's very common. Like when you become a young parent, like people just feel like they're entitled to tell you you ruined your life.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. Like I didn't even have maybe like a month of knowing. People already like found out. And I remember my mom just getting off the phone with one of my family members, and she's like, "Hey, so and so, I was on the phone with them, and they told me that you had ruined your life and that they couldn't believe you did that. So I just hung up on them." And she's like, "I don't want to hear that BS," like in Spanish. And I was just like in my head, like, God damn, like I can't believe some family members feel like they're so entitled to tell you how to do your life. My pregnancy was unexpected. It really was, but I don't blame anybody. I knew what I was doing. I was the goody two shoes in my family, always. Like to this day, honestly, I was always sheltered. I've never been drunk in my life. I'll say that. I've never even done
Never
anything
been
illegal.
drunk
No,
ever. And you're
my
from
mom was.
Texas?
I
You
grew
live
up
in Texas?
right.
Y'all motherfuckers can drink.
Well, my mom, well, at least my parents, they're Catholic, so at least my dad's side, I learned that for almost 200 years on his side, we've been Catholics, and I mean, they were just always sheltering us growing up. They had very conservative thoughts, but to this day though, they're more open-minded, because they know that the conservatives from this country aren't really on your side, so they've become open-minded. But thankfully, like I will say, my parents were supportive since day one when I found out I was gonna become a mother, and I'm still with my partner to this day. We share now, or she's 4 years old, and I'm very grateful to have his support as well as my parents and my in-laws. All of them have been supportive since day one. Of course, I had, a relative tell my mom that, but I proved my relative wrong. Of course, like when I continued going to school, I remember thinking, damn, how am I going to do it? But luckily, I hate that, the pandemic had to occur here in the US, but the pandemic really played like a huge role in as to why I graduated early from my university, because everything was like online now, and I was trying to do as many online classes as I could, and the pandemic allowed for me to finish the rest of my degree like online, so that's how I graduated early, and because I took classes in high school. But when I graduated early, I remember thinking like, wow, my other classmates who have no kids, they're still in school, and
Struggling.
to think that I like supposedly I had ruined my life. So I'm like, in reality, we all have like, we're all gonna finish at different times, but and things can come up, 'cause life happens. But as long as you do what you want to do, that's all that matters. But then, like when I ran for city council, I remember thinking, I wonder what this family member of mine thinks. But slowly but surely, I've continued proving her wrong. Now I do social media full time, thankfully, and it's been a good amount of income. Like I would have never expected that, and I feel really blessed. And it's more money than I would have ever thought of, and I'm sure that you know, those people who have a lot to say probably have never seen, but I'd like to remind myself, like, just remain humble, because at the end of the day, like how they say in Spanish, la vida da muchas vueltas. So you never know, but I
And
am,
I wonder what they were thinking when they saw you at the White House.
oh, yes, it felt so, I kid you not. I mean, it was bittersweet because it was the anniversary of DACA. And, just to think how these individuals, like their lives every day is just full of anxiety, I'm sure, for some of them. And I was just there just thinking like, wow, it's like surreal, because I'm thankful for the opportunity, but at the same time, like I acknowledge that the fight isn't over, and just because you get invited to the White House doesn't mean like you settle. You still gotta continue criticizing politicians, because no politician's perfect, and you can't fully idolize them. But I will say, like, if I was to get invited again, that'd be awesome. I'd go, but I will never stop criticizing, because I don't want anybody to ever think I'm a sellout.
Yeah, I mean, and the temptation to sell out is real, right? Especially when people are struggling. But and you want to take care of your family and stuff like that. You want to take care of your loved ones. But I don't mean to turn this into like Ask a Gen Z, but like you're very politically minded. You know what's up. Like one, what's what do you think Latinos of your generation, what do they feel about Biden? What do they feel about Trump? I just saw this poll that said like 12th grade, like senior 12th grade boys lean heavily conservative. We all know how like Latinos in Texas went heavy for Trump. I mean, what's going on? What do you think's going on?
Well, I will say, I feel like, well, Gen Z overall, they're really open-minded, but with them saying, I saw that too, that seniors are supposedly conservative, or was it senior boys
Just the boys,
specifically?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm I'm not surprised. I feel like I know Latinos aren't monolith, but for some odd reason, they naturally just like, they're attracted to conservatives, their mindset. My partner, we're a few months apart. I'm actually a few months older than him, but I knew he had kind of some like conservative thoughts when we first got together. But I'm a firm believer that you can educate people, and make them more open-minded. And that's what occurred with me and my brothers too. Like I would tell my partner and my brothers like this, and that, and they would listen to me. They would even do their own like research, or like at least try to find information themselves some way. And but I will say to this day, I still sometimes get those like conservative what is it called, like just a conservative vibe from the men in my life. But I think it's also because it's like the way they're raised, like how men are supposed to like the providers. But I've never been one of those like really individuals to shame a man if he isn't a provider, because I know that there's like a lot of factors as to why a man can or cannot be. And my partner, he like believes like in not telling like a girl to pay for something, but at the same time, like if I do pay, it's not like he's gonna tell me like, oh no, like our role is this and that. Like we help each other out with my daughter 50-50 everything. And when I feel like giving 0, he gives 100. I think it should be that way, like just helping each other out as much as you can. And if you want to just have some conservative values in your relationship, that's fine. But as long as you're not like trying to make everybody else live like you, that's, I guess what I'm trying to say is like I grew up like conservative, so sometimes maybe at my house we may not do something, but I don't ever try to apply that to others at all.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like again, my wife, I make good money, but my wife makes way more money than I do, right? And for a long time, she was the only breadwinner when I was trying to make trying to become a writer. That didn't happen. Now I'm an editor, so thank God for that. But like, and what I found was that a lot of it's not really from like I'm 38, so I'm an older millennial, as they say. It's not really from our generation and younger. It's really from like her parents, especially because her parents are immigrants, right? My wife was born in Juarez, but I mean, what do what is your generation? What does Latino Gen Zers feel about Biden, the job that Biden's doing? Because he looks like he's going to run again. It looks like it might be him and Trump next year, or it might be him and DeSantis. I mean, so what do you think? How do you think? What is the vibe that Biden gives Latino Gen Zers?
So when I post videos and stuff about Biden, I will say that the majority, because I just signed to a management team not so long ago, and they helped me find out that 95% of my followers are Latinos, and most of them are really young, between 18 to 24, and that's like Gen Z. And every
Yeah.
time I post a video, I get good feedback like all the time about Biden. And of course, that doesn't mean like 100%, but for the most part, I will say I think young Gen Z Latinos are satisfied with Biden. I think they think that's the only answer out of the two, even if that like means settling. I think that we're gonna see, Biden and Trump. I don't have any hope for DeSantis. I think he's just full of just pure show. But I think we'll see for sure Biden and Trump at the end. We'll see. But I know he has like a lot of things going on. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it
He's
will
like
affect him.
he's being like indicted by like different like by New York, by Washington D.C., like for different things, like, and he's gonna be running. He said he might, if he's in jail, he'll run from jail.
Goodness. Well, yeah, I guess he's not trying to let anything stop him, but I don't think he's gonna win. I know that we're having really hard times. And I know the White House has like put out information about how Bidenomics has helped Latinos. I even thought about making a video about that, because apparently, like ever since the Biden Harris administration took office, there have been like there has been such a big growth in Latino businesses, but specifically like Latinas are like going crazy when it comes to creating businesses. And I believe that because whenever you have hard times, you try to make like money, you try to hustle. And also supposedly Latinos have the lowest unemployment rate right now with the Biden Harris administration. I know for some they're like, what, like we're struggling or whatever, but I mean
And
the
I think
numbers
we're like leading home buying too, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's just, I think for the most part, we have had positive things come out of the Biden administration for Latinos, and Gen Z individuals know how far right, Republicans are right now, that that's just not even an option. Like, we have to settle, like, I hate to say it, but honestly, as of right now, and they've been dominating for that for at least the last 150 years, I think. Both two major parties, Democrats and Republicans. I don't really see a third party anytime soon taking over any of, you know, I think we'll continue to see Republicans and Democrats dominate. We're just gonna have to settle for Democrats. And I think, yes, like some of them sometimes make promises and don't fully, keep them, but I do see them trying a little bit more than Republicans, and I couldn't see myself or any other Gen Z Latinos voting Republican.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said like you because you guys came up under Trump. I mean, you were in high school still, right? When Trump became president. And like for people like me and older, when Trump was running, it was like even to the last minute. I remember like 2 weeks before they're saying, "Oh, Hillary's way ahead. There's no way Trump's gonna win," and then he won. Like you guys came up under Trump and all his crazy shit, so like you guys know like, oh, that could happen again. Not only can that happen again, that can get worse. Like, and I also think like for a long time, what happened was kids, people under 30 didn't vote, Latinos didn't vote. I think Latino Gen Zers are breaking the mold in that way. I think you guys are super like civic minded, and I think you guys are gonna like have these like you guys are obviously gonna post about it on TikTok, like have all these like big ass caravans going to the polls to vote. Do you think about running for politics again? I mean, you did it once.
I would not mind it at all. I would, only because I refuse to just, sit back and just watch, old white Republican men continue to dominate and make decisions over me and my families. And knowing that, at least for the past few years here, that we haven't seen much progress like in Texas because of these old Republican white men. And I would, only because you know how they say, well, if you don't like it, then just go live in California. Like, I don't want to be like that. I want to stay where I'm from and, just be a part of good trouble and make sure we make it into a state where everyone can thrive and not just like the rich and privileged. And I mean, I'm not sure when. I know that after you're 25, at least, you can run for Congress. But the only thing is, I do think about how, like redistricting and all. Right now, it's just the maps are created for, Republicans to continue to just dominate. But we'll see for sure.
What was it? Oh, I was gonna ask you something else. Forget what I was gonna ask you. I was reading some of these comments. People love people who follow you. They obviously know who you are. They love the work that you do. Um, Priscilla, who we mutually know, is saying how you raise money. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. So, TikTok is just amazing. Like, I would have never thought that I would have been able to raise thousands of dollars for different families through TikTok. And recently, sadly, there was a paletero from Dallas who
Oh yeah, I
was
saw
hit,
that.
and I shared his GoFundMe that I guess one of the daughters had created, and it was like at 5,000. And well, after sharing it, before any other creator had shared it, I saw that we were already like at 29,000, and then a few other creators started talking about it, and then I think now they're close to 40,000. But it's crazy to think that you can help raise thousands of dollars for families who need it. And it's just, I mean, it feels great being able to help and have some sort of impact, because back then we didn't have the way TikTok is today. Like an incident like that occurs, and sadly, the family may have to pay out of pocket to do, what they need to do for their loved one who passed away. So now they've reached their goal, and they'll be able to transport the body back to Mexico to have a burial there. And I'm thankful that I have a platform to be able to help, families do that.
Yeah, it's crazy how much like, and it all started with Trump. It probably started with that speech that you're talking about that he made in 2015 with like all this anti-Latino. It used to be anti-immigrant. Now it's like specifically anti-Latino hate. But I another reason why I wanted to invite you on was to give you your flowers. I mean, you're doing great work. important work, you know, teaching people about teaching me, right, about my own history, about my own culture. I'm not Mexican, but like, you know, we're Latinos, right? And when some racist white guy is yelling at a Mexican, he doesn't care, you know, he doesn't care, you know what I mean? Like,
They like
I,
for them, anybody who's brown is Mexican. So like it could be
exactly.
of the day, even if you're not Mexican.
Like, yeah, exactly. He might as well be Honduran. I'm half Honduran, half Puerto Rican. So like, yeah, when I see somebody yelling at a Mexican, I know he just as easily yell at me, especially if you're being like Afro Latino, right? Like, you know, I catch hell on both sides. But let everybody know, you know, I want to thank you again so much for coming on. I mean, super awesome talking to you. And I know, you know, we're all going to keep following you. Let everybody know where they can follow you and all that good stuff. And leave us with some final thoughts. Leave us with some hope. It's Thursday, almost the end of the week. Leave us with some hope. Leave us with some words of encouragement.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you for having me again. I mean, it's honestly an honor. I don't often go live ever, especially not even on Instagram. It's very rare. I think I go like once every blue moon. But I mean, it was for sure awesome to be able to just talk about a little bit about me with you. But I will say y'all can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Nessa Diosdado, and Twitter now changed to X, so you can follow me on X at Nessa Diosdado as well. I don't use any other platforms, and if I do, some of them are just private for just, you know, family and friends. So you can only find me on those three, really. But I will say the fight isn't over, regardless of whoever's in office. I think there's always work to be put in. We can never settle. And I mean, honestly, it's better to be a part of good trouble in history than to just keep watching from afar.
And how does it feel to be? And I ask a lot of Latinos this because how does it feel to be part? There's a strictly Latina movement. Like not only Latinos are coming up, but Latinas have been like on the march for like at least I think the last 10 years, if I can remember, and especially now, where you have like Ava Longoria is now a director and making movies, and like people like you, and like if you look on social media, it's all Latinas doing everything, right? I mean, how does that feel? Like you said, like when you grew up, you didn't have any people to look to. I mean, how does that feel, man?
It feels awesome. I kid you not. When I'm on TikTok and I see like other creators that are Latinas, whatever they have like content about, it doesn't matter. For me, just seeing them like out there put themselves, it's just amazing, and them like paving the way for other Latinas. Like I'll see like Latinas in tech or like in law, and they're just talking about their accomplishments and how like just, you know, badass that they are, and it's just amazing. And I've seen a little more advocates that are Latinas pop up, and I follow them whether they have a huge platform or not, because at the end of the day, I don't think that the numbers of like the number of followers that you have defines like how great of a person or how great of an impact like you can like have. And so I follow everyone. I honestly think that some of the coolest people don't even have a lot of followers at all. Like some of the people that are going to make the biggest change probably don't even have a following right now. So if anything, I mean, I'm always going to be supporting Latinas no matter what, even if we're in the same field, because I think that the sun shines for everybody. Sad that sometimes though, like Latinos don't think the same, that the sun shines for everybody. You know, the other day, one of my mutuals posted a video, so I used his quote, but it's un dicho that everybody says that el peor enemigo de un latino es otro latino, and it's true. We've seen that lately so much, like so many Latinos just being very discriminative of their own kind or of other Latinos, and it's sad because, you know, we should all be like uplifting each other, especially in times where they see us as the same as nothing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I personally I'm jealous because I think like Latinas are so good at like empowering each other and gassing each other up and boosting each other. And I've been in Latino media for more than 10 years now, and I've noticed that it's not the same level of support between Latino men. There's a lot of that like crabs in the barrel, hating, criticizing. But Latina is like, like you said, Latina going for a PhD in something, Latina, the first Latina who wants to be a journalist or something. Uh, all her comment sections will be filled with like other Latinas, like just gassing her up and saying, "You go, girl," and all that shit. Like and I think this is me talking to other Latino men out there. We got to stop hating on each other. we gotta, because Latino men are suffering. I mean, there's, there our graduation rates are down. All wealth, like you said, wealth creation. Latinas are way better at that. And it's, there's a lot of, I don't know if there's like a conservative bent among Latino men, but hopefully,
I've seen this.
Latino men, what's up?
I've seen the same. Yes, like I just noticed that I hardly see Latino men uplift other Latino men. Like it's so rare. Like I don't know. Like are they shy? Do they just like have secret like animosity? Like do they not? And I, you know what? Like even on TikTok recently, I saw some. I want to say both of them were Latinos. They're like business owners, just men, just like clashing. And then I just think that maybe one of them didn't think it was okay for somebody else to enter the space of the business that they had, because they had similar businesses. And usually Latinas, if they have similar businesses, for the most part, I do see they uplift each other, give each other tips, or make videos like of how to, run your business and just tips or whatever. But yeah, I hope I start to see more Latino men uplift other Latino men, because you don't see that often, like you said. And I think Latinas are more eager to network with other Latinas than Latinos are eager to network with other Latinos.
It's weird. It's fucking sad, but oh well. Hey, if anybody's got to rule the world, I'd rather it be a Latina than an old white man, right?
Right.
And you guys, I mean, I think the first Latino president will be a Latina. For
I
sure.
hope to see
But
that too. You know what? And they say that it's men who are behind all wars that we've had. So I would rather have a Latina too in office. That'd be awesome.
and like that Latinos are running stuff is like, so I mean, I've said this on other talks, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, you always say that," but it's true. Like I was raised by all Latinas. Like all the men in my family were gone. My dad was gone. My uncles were gone, and so Latinas did everything. My grandma is the matriarch, and so it's natural to me to I just know from my upbringing that Latinas can do everything and do everything. And so here in Nevada, like we used to have like we still have two female senators. We used to have like all the women running the government, and I wrote this thing like, yeah, have women run the government, man. Like, yeah, I'm down, man. I am totally down for that. But and for the same reasons that you said, like I don't know what's going on with my fellow men, and I'm sorry to throw my guys under the bus, but we got to get our shit together for real. Being super hateful, super competitive, super tearing each other down. Like you said, there's plenty of space for all of us to come up in everything that we do, and we're not going to get there if we're tearing each other down. And so it's good to see that what Latinos are doing specifically, because it could teach everybody how community works, right? Online community.
No, oh yes, and now that you mentioned that as well, I noticed that if I ever get hate comments, it's never Latinas. It's like Latino men, and the audacity. Like I've actually had a Latino man once try to make me go against another Latina creator, and I just thought that was like crazy. Like the audacity that a Latino man would try to put one Latina creator against another Latina creator, acting like the sun can't shine for both creators, acting like they both can't talk about something, and it baffled me. Like I was just like, wow, like we really could do so much better than that.
Well, I mean, thanks to people like you, we are doing better, and keep up the good work. I'll keep following, keep making important content. It's also interesting, like the way you make your videos, and I mean, the things that you choose to talk about. Super interesting. So I'm sure everybody who's going to watch this video has already follows you, but if you're not, you need to be following Nessa. Thank you so much, Nessa. Been a pleasure. Have a good weekend.
Thank you so much too. Have
Peace.
a good weekend. Bye.